You're watching the show that puts Mid-Michigan news in focus. This is Focal Point.
Coming up on Focal Point, we're talking to students inside Acres Hall about the removal of 10 RAs.
Trying to find ways to help out this holiday season? The Greater Lansing Food Bank may have a few ideas for you. Find out more tonight on Focal Point News.
Michigan State is under fire as current and former students claim the university mishandled cases of sexual assault.
Focal Point starts now. Good evening, I'm Kiera Lake.
And I'm Daniela Bruce. Welcome to Focal Point. 4 former students and current students are suing the university over the mishandling of sexual assault cases. This week, a press conference was held where female students claimed the university delayed investigations, which allowed the harassment to continue.
It shouldn't take over 285 days to investigate a case when the Office of Civil Rights says that it shouldn't be over 60. He was allowed to walk freely on campus while I lived in a constant state of fear for my safety. Because of MSU's process, he can proudly call himself a Spartan while I'm counting down the days until I can graduate and once again feel safe.
Meantime, before the lawsuit was filed, the Office of Civil Rights released a report on MSU's handling of sexual assault, ruling that the school was not timely enough in addressing some of its cases. In response, the university is implementing a new training program. Focal Point's Brett Cass has the story.
Sexual assault has been a major issue on college campuses, and it might be much more common than people think.
Rape is the most commonly reported violent crime on American college campuses. Like 1 in 5 women will be raped in America in their lifetime.
Beth Ann Hamilton is the president of the Sexual Assault Crisis Intervention Program, also known as SASSY, and she knows firsthand how big of an issue sexual assault is on campus.
Working as a SASSY advocate, like you see that all the time. Like you're on a call for crisis line and you get sometimes 3 or 4 calls a day.
The Office of Civil Rights, or OCR, released a report in September identifying issues with Michigan State's handling of sexual assault cases. One of those new requirements is a sexual assault training program for Greek life. Trace Camacho is a director of Greek life at MSU and was notified earlier this year about the new policy. He met with members of the Greek councils to come up with their own training version that was specific to Greek life.
The OCR recommendations came out, the resolution agreement, and said that we have to do a training for fraternities and sororities. We're like, we already have started something, so let's just do that.
Not every fraternity and sorority have their own house or even the same amount of members, so students requested that a more case-based training be tailored to their specific chapter.
Every chapter at Michigan State is different, so one canned presentation isn't really going to appeal to everybody.
Even with the implementation of these new training programs, the university is still facing more lawsuits, and even further revisions as to how the university handles sexual assault could be on the horizon.
Brett also reports that fraternities and sororities that are registered student organizations must have 100% participation in the program to maintain RSO status.
East Lansing police are investigating a couple different robberies off campus and now have suspects in custody for at least one of them. Focal Point's Denise McMiller has the story on how some students confronted the suspects and helped the police catch them.
A Saturday night party on campus isn't anything unusual.
There was a good amount of people here. And there was 3 guys here that we didn't really know.
Supply chain management senior Drew Fortier hosted the party. He and his friends were having a good time until someone noticed something strange going on.
One of my friends came up to me and was like, "Hey Drew, your wallet's in the bathroom and all your cards are in the toilet."
A debit card and $120 in cash were gone, along with his car keys and a brand new pair of Nike Air Jordans.
I was pretty mad at that point.
Those at the party speculated it was one of the 3 that nobody recognized. A friend knew where the guys had gone, so they ran after them.
And we came up to him and we said, "Hey, did you guys steal our stuff?" They're like, "Why would you accuse us of that?" We told them, "You're the only people we didn't know at the party. Nobody else has left."
Right here on Durand Street is where Fortier and his friends confronted the suspects. One of the suspects then threatened them, saying he wasn't messing around, reached behind his back, and asked if they wanted to die tonight.
At that point, when he said that, I figured they might have had a gun, so I was just like, let's just leave. It's not worth it.
They saw the suspects again the next morning and called the police.
When we immediately identified them, and that's when they had him in cuffs on the ground.
While it may seem heroic at the time, police do not encourage confronting suspects.
You don't know if that person has a gun, if they have a knife, if they have any type of weapon. You don't know if anybody else was with them that might be waiting and wait to attack you or whatever.
They also say call immediately with a description.
About what height the person was, what their race was, if they were walking or if they were in a car. We're going to ask you what direction they went in.
And this is not the first time this has occurred recently.
We had some friends over, just hanging out in the kitchen.
Economics major Tyler Stewart was robbed a block away from Fortier on Bailey Street at his home during a Saturday night gathering.
One of our friends went upstairs to use the bathroom, and she saw some people in one of the bedrooms.
They confronted the suspects, but they ran off. Later, those at the party noticed car keys, money, and a debit card were missing, but it was never reported.
At that point, we didn't have a good enough description of them to think we should call the police.
Stewart believes there may be a connection with Fortier's robbery.
That it could be the same people that robbed our friends down the street, and had we called the police, it would have just given more validity to their story.
Neither Fortier nor Stewart were able to retrieve their lost items. In East Lansing, Denise McMiller, Focal Point News.
Though police have made arrests, no charges have been filed yet as the investigation continues.
Studies show e-smoking devices sales to minors has tripled, a shocking statistic that is causing members of Ingham County Health Department to take action. Starting January 1st, new rules in the county will help regulate these purchases and require vendors to have a license to sell tobacco and e-smoking devices. It will also be illegal to sell these devices to minors.
Restricting sales to minors does not keep them out of the hands of minors. You know, we know minors get a hold of cigarettes. We know minors get a hold of alcohol. We know minors will continue to get a hold of these. But when you do regulate it and say that it's illegal to sell to minors, you do see those sales go way, way, way down.
The county aims to protect teens 18 and under from the nicotine and e-devices.
Michigan roads will finally get fixed thanks to a new law signed by Governor Snyder last week. However, it's going to cost commuters a bit more. Focal Point's Matt Miller shows us how taxpayers will help foot the bill.
Going on a road trip across America can be a great experience.
So I actually drove from Florida here.
But for MSU student Rain Lou, the great experience took a turn when she reached Michigan.
I can feel immediately like a degradation of the quality of the roads when I enter Michigan at that moment.
Rain says that there's a difference between Michigan roads and the rest of the country.
To be honest, I think it's below average.
There may be hope for Michigan's tired road system. A new package of bills recently signed by Governor Snyder hopes to bring in $1.2 billion.
Or it does bring a certain amount of accountability for how the money is spent. It puts a cap on the amount of money that the Department of Transportation can spend.
The idea that we would raise people's taxes and not solve a problem, I just think is a really bad plan for Michigan.
The new package of bills recently signed by Governor Snyder hopes to bring more accountability and transparency to the way money is spent on our roads. It also brings in $1.2 billion, a number named by many contractors. $600 million of that money will come from pre-existing funds, while an additional $600 million will be raised from a gas tax and increased vehicle registration fees.
I voted against the particular part that raised taxes because I felt as this bill is phased in, it's not an automatic next year we're going to see all this happen.
What Representative Vopel means is that the extra money given to MDOT won't be used until later, and for now will just stockpile. And Senator Curtis Hertel says this isn't soon enough.
We don't actually start funding the roads fully till that year as well, 2021. By the time we get there, we're going to have roads that have been falling apart.
So many phases of our economy depend on roads, from agriculture to manufacturing to retail. Everything depends on roads.
The gas tax we brought up at the beginning of next October. However, major work on the roads may not begin until 2021. In Lansing, Matt Miller for Focal Point News.
The taxes will be implemented over the next few years, with it being fully funded by 2021.
Area food banks are gearing up for another holiday season, but this year the shelves are emptier than usual, leaving them scrambling to provide food for the needy. Officials at the Greater Lansing Food Bank say they are hoping for more help from the community. The Greater Lansing Food Bank is able to feed people 365 days a year, including local places like the National Council on Alcoholism, where Betty Shaheen currently works.
So we feed the people coming into treatment, which are homeless, and If we didn't have this, it would be hard to run our program.
But it's difficult to serve families when they can't fill the warehouse.
Now, this room is normally packed this time of year.
Greater
And what
Lansing
you'll see
Food Bank Executive Director Joe Wald says that grocery stores that donate food
become more efficient. There is less and less food for us to pick up. So we still are working with them. They're still great partners, but the reality is their efficiency is impacting our supply of food.
The shelves of the food bank look vacant, which is rare around the holiday season. They would receive truckloads of food from larger retailers like Kroger and Walmart, but since they are more efficient, that's not the case this year.
We are getting less of what we call salvage, and so their waste is our gold.
Receiving less means that the food bank needs more donations and help, but it's a year-round problem.
That hunger continues January 2nd and 3rd and 4th. It's not only over the holidays.
And with the donations,
It helps us, the food bank helps us feed 14 women, and we have a men's facility, so 14 men. And without guys, it would be, like I said, very difficult to run our program.
this holiday, the food bank hopes to make sure that nobody has to go hungry. And with the help of the Greater Lansing community, Wald says everyone can help end the shortage. The food bank also takes cash and check donations to purchase more supplies. You can donate by visiting the address on your screen below.
And with Thanksgiving just next week, MSU students are ready to head home for a few days with the family. In tonight's Sidewalk Survey, we asked some what they are thankful for.
I'm thankful for having my family with me. I'm close enough to go home, and I'm also thankful, I guess, just for all their health because they're still here.
I am thankful for being here at MSU. I am thankful for my family. I am thankful for the opportunities that I've been given the past couple years, and I'm thankful for my good health.
I'm thankful that my family is healthy. I am currently doing well, knock on wood. And things are looking up, you know.
I'm thankful for being here, for being part of this university, for being part of my program, for my parents, for all the support for people from the summer that got me here.
No classes will be held Thanksgiving Day or the day after, but will resume Monday, November 30th.
Local art enthusiasts came together to reflect on the life of Charlie Waller during the 5th annual art show, Art for Charlie. This is a non-profit organization funded by the Waller family in honor of their son who died of a brain tumor in December 2013. The organization raises money and promotes pediatric palliative and hospice care through art auctions and events. Organizers say the year's auction was a huge success.
It was an amazing success. Yeah, I think it's probably the best auction we've had so far.
The foundation will hold a conference on pediatric palliative care tomorrow at East Lansing Marriott. Up next, 10 MSU resident assistants lost their jobs when they violated university policy. We'll have the details on what happened.
Plus, students have to say goodbye to a favorite study area on campus.
When do we give up? When do we just close our eyes and say, that's it? This water's too polluted. This disease too far along. To a Spartan, the answer is simple. Never. Because Michigan State was founded on the belief that our purpose is to make the world a better place. And when you're open to unconventional thinking, value people's differences, and are willing to forge true partnerships, then and only then can you solve the world's toughest problems. Like renewable energy, clean water, and Parkinson's disease. Because we know our true triumph lies in the impact we make on the world around us. And after all, if we don't do it, who will? Spartans will.
The people of France are still stunned and in mourning after mass attacks by ISIS left the city and the world devastated this past week. Abdelhamid Abaoud, the ringleader of the Paris terrorist attacks, was killed in St. Denis Thursday during a raid in a suburban apartment. Over 120 people were killed during a series of attacks on a restaurant, stadium, and concert hall. President Obama is urging President Putin to take a stand against ISIS after recent alleged attacks on Russian airplanes.
It may be that
Now, having seen ISIL take down one of their airliners in a horrific accident, that reorientation continues.
Students on campus responded by painting the rock in memoriam of those affected by the attack. Many students on campus are spending the rest of their semester without their RA.
And a famous comedian and late-night talk show host visited campus. Focal Point's Matt Miller has more on what's happening with students. With our on-campus report, Matt?
Thanks, guys. December 18th marks the official end of the fall semester. But this year, it also comes with the closing of one of campus's most popular libraries. Focal Point's Michaela Colonna gives us the details.
I will get it up right now.
Jovanka Koprivica is a material science and engineering junior at MSU. She spends most of her time studying at the College of Engineering library.
I can't do homework in my apartment. It's just I can't focus. So it's if you have to focus, just come here.
But the library will soon close.
If I would have found out about it sooner, I would have done something sooner and maybe we would have had a different result.
The College of Engineering has seen a 50% increase in its student population since 2007.
Our plan is to hire 100 new faculty over the next 5 years. You have to have a place to put them.
The growth has left Dean Leo Kemble and his administration scrambling to find more space for classes and new faculty.
We're working on various things to free up space, moving department offices.
Starting in the fall of 2016, the engineering library will be home to more than 25 faculty and 120 graduate student offices. Upset with the coming changes, Jovanka decided to take matters into her own hands and start a petition.
It exploded overnight.
And it was really cool going through and just reading the comments of why people signed.
Engineering resources are now available at the main library and remote locations off campus. But some students have expressed that this may not be the best option.
But you can't go to the main library because you need those engineering machines. You need the software that's on those machines.
Although rooms 1206 and 1220 in the engineering building will be converted into new study areas, senior computing engineer Ian Grosh is worried about finding study space for group projects.
The only collaborative space now to work that's open all the time is I think it's 1320-25 in the engineering building, and that has 3 tables and they're almost always full.
Even though the lock on the library doors will soon be permanent, Jovanka is happy that she spoke up.
I definitely think we got our word across that how often this place is used.
Drawing your
With
values.
their voices heard, the engineering administration will continue to find new study areas for its students.
We're going to do everything possible to make that available to our students.
Over 1K.
In East Lansing, Michaela Colonna, Focal Point News.
Study space is also available for first-year engineering students in Wilson and Winters Hall. Across campus in Acres, a dorm party allegedly cost 10 resident assistants their jobs. Focal Point's Daniel Hamburg went to the hall to investigate.
There's 10 less people walking through the doors of Acres Hall. Tucker Alchin says her RA was like an older sister to residents.
And she cared about every single one of us, and she would help us with any kind of situation we were in, and she was just a good role model too.
But her role model is now gone, removed from her position because of an incident on September 19th when a group of RAs allegedly had a party in Acres Hall, something that's against university policy.
There was a Facebook page for the RAs, and someone posted about a party on the 6th floor, and some of the RAs had commented on it and liked it, and that was screenshot and sent to their bosses.
The Residential Education and Housing Services Office, or REHS, investigated and found 10 RAs were involved in the party that allegedly took place before the MSU Air Force game. 3 of them were underage, and after investigating, all 10 were removed from their positions as resident assistants. One source who wouldn't go on camera tells us the RA who created the Facebook page was the one who sent the screenshot to supervisors. Because of that screenshot, the RAs were brought in for questioning 2 weeks later. She says, quote, "I was interrogated on 2 separate occasions before being called into my community director's office and told I was terminated. I couldn't even believe what I was hearing." Why was I fired? Failure to report alcohol consumption. At the end of it, 4 resigned and the other 6 appealed. One RA told us via email they had 72 hours to get out of the building, and their meal plans were cut off within 20 minutes of being let go. She said, quote, "The funny thing is, I wasn't even in the room long enough to notice if there was alcohol. There weren't bottles laying around, no one was passing around shots, no loud music. Officials from REHS directed us to MSU spokesperson Jason Cody, who couldn't comment on the specific incident, but noted that RAs are bound by the same rules that any student would be.
Can an RA who is of age drink alcohol in their room in those dorms where that's allowed? Yes, they can. But RAs would not be able to, as any student, either host a party, host a student group, have people in their rooms who were underage and exposed to alcohol.
Meantime, REHS denied all 6 appeals. While MSU won't comment on the removal of 10 RAs here at Akers Hall, students have taken to Facebook to express their frustration and sadness.
There was like a campaign on our Facebook group to kind of try and see if we could like stop it.
2 of the terminated RAs even commented back saying, "You guys will always be my residents, no matter what." Brittany Kimball lives on one of the floors where an RA was let go.
So I think they should have gotten in trouble. I don't know if firing them all and kicking them out of the dorms, that seems a little severe to me, but I know that there should have been some form of punishment.
While many residents understand the responsibility of being an RA, it still doesn't take the sting away from losing a mentor and a close friend.
I wish I could do something for her, but I can't. It's just kind of a bad situation.
A bad situation that could have been avoided, but now leaves 10 students quickly looking for a new place to live and a way to pay for it. In East Lansing, Daniel Hamburg, Focal Point News.
We did reach out to multiple RAs who were fired, but only one responded. MSU spokesperson Jason Cody said any RA who is removed would be found alternative housing within the residence housing system, but of course these students will have to foot their own bill. It's not every day that a former president visits campus, but Wednesday night, hundreds filled the ballroom at the Kellogg Center to hear former President Bill Clinton speak. Clinton accepted the first Spartan Statesmanship Award for Distinguished Public Service at the inaugural Governor Jim Blanchard Public Service Forum. The forum was created after the former Michigan governor and his wife donated $1 million to the Department of Political Science. Clinton spoke about his continued efforts with the Clinton Foundation, touched on the recent attacks in Paris, and stressed the importance of serving the community.
In the world we live in today, we all need to think of some way to do public service, even as private citizens, to advance the public good.
MSU also just announced it is joining the Clinton Global University Initiative and will offer a minor in entrepreneurship and innovation. The largest media collection in the nation can now be found right here in East Lansing. The Rovey collection includes nearly 1 million CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, and video games. The exception of the DVD and classic games dating back to the 80s. The media will enhance courses in music theory, film studies, and influence video game development.
This collection is a huge boon to have this stuff immediately available on campus. But we also know that there'll be lots of requests just to hear an album or just to watch a movie. I personally have made a couple requests for movies and watched them.
The university will also open multiple gaming labs for the collection. Big Ten competition continues off the field as MSU and Penn State face off to help the community. Focal Point's Daniela Bruce shows us how a little friendly competition is also helping to save lives.
For the 22nd year in a row, the American Red Cross is pairing up with MSU in an annual blood drive.
Michigan State University has a very active Red Cross club.
And local Red Cross Communications Director Todd Coleman said students have a great impact on blood donations in this area.
Our students represent almost 20% of the blood that's donated.
Beyond students, Coleman emphasizes the overall importance of donating blood.
The need for blood is constant. Every 2 seconds, somebody needs a blood transfusion somewhere in the United States.
Just encourage a lot of people, more people to do it, because in this day and age, we always can use it, that's for sure.
And that is why MSU and Penn State are teaming up for the 22nd straight year in a friendly battle.
So we started this back in 1994 as a way to see which campus could collect the most units of blood during a 3-week period.
And one Red Cross volunteer said this year is definitely a success so far.
Any sort of competition against any other school, it's a good way to motivate people to do it.
So far, Michigan State has collected 890 units of blood and Penn State has collected 866. But this is just a small amount compared to what the schools have collected over the past 22 years.
Since 1994, we've been able to collect between ourselves and Penn State University over 72,000 units of blood.
Penn State leads the series, 13 wins to MSU's 8, but MSU is on a streak.
Sparty is going for its 3rd win in a row, so we're hoping that MSU fans and students, alumni, everybody can come out and help Sparty three-peat.
And donors say the blood challenge makes helping easy.
I was just leaving work, so I happened to see the posters and then the free T-shirt. You know, I was like, oh, I'll go help Michigan State.
But Coleman said the winner of this challenge is not MSU or PSU.
The real winners are those patients that are receiving these life-saving units of blood.
For more information, visit redcross.org. The winner of this year's blood drive will be announced at the MSU Penn State basketball game on November 28th. The university has received over $18 million in U.S. aid grants to combat world hunger. The Agricultural Department will use the grants to assist the U.S. government's food security initiative in Nigeria and Senegal. Sitting in class on a Friday night is anything but ideal to college students, but it was worth it for me to see a special guest lecturer. Focal Point's Michaela Colonna takes us to the class to meet a late-night talk show host and comedian who turned professor for a night.
I've never seen anybody in person like this, so I hope it's pretty cool.
I've always been into comedy, I guess.
MSU students couldn't wait to see one of their favorite comedians. They're talking about Saturday Night Live alum and late-night talk show host Seth Meyers, who visited Michigan State recently. Meyers became a professor for the night, talking to students about his start in the entertainment industry and career today.
I'll tell you guys about my career up to this point in some broad strokes, and then I'll turn it over to you to ask some questions.
The event was put on by Entertainment U professors, where students nationwide would vote on the university that Seth would visit. 550 to 600 tickets were available through ASMSU, and they sold out in an hour and a half.
I don't know what the best compliment I've ever received from somebody. There you go.
Meyers joined an improv troupe during his senior year at Northwestern, and it opened the door to his future.
It was the closing night of our sort of 5-night run, and I just remember standing on stage saying, oh, I know this is what I want to do.
Meyers was hired on Saturday Night Live in 2001. He said his off-camera time at the show was a great learning experience.
When you get to see everybody's sort of average work and you get to see them do things that aren't perfect, because that's where you really learn how to get better.
But even with how busy he is, he still likes to make campus visits like this one.
Also, when I was 4 to 10 years old, I lived in Okemos, so this is an incredible homecoming for me to be back here.
Remembering what it was like in college, Meyers likes to give back, helping students fulfill their showbiz dreams.
What advice would you give to me or anyone else who wants to be in the writer's room writing for television?
Well, the first thing I'd say is now's a really good time to start writing the kind of things that you want to be writing.
And the students were thrilled to hear his advice.
I do lots of improv at different places, so anything that is close to that or related to that, I want like as much information as possible.
Like wake up, 100 squats, make coffee, 100 squats. And so for me, like for the butt to finally get some attention is really important.
In East Lansing, Michaela Colonna.
Thank you.
Focal Point News.
You can catch Late Night with Seth Meyers weeknights at 12:35 a.m. on NBC. That's what's happening on campus. I'm Matt Miller.
Next in sports, Spartan basketball made a huge statement in Chicago with a comeback win against Kansas.
And another alumni donation puts renovation plans in motion. Next on Focal Point.
Ever wonder where courage comes from? Where one finds the strength to believe in solutions that seem impossible? It takes a Spartan's will to understand that by working together we can solve the world's biggest problems, from renewable energy to fighting malaria. After all, if we don't do it, who will? Spartans will.
Hello and welcome back.
So coming off a close but unexpected loss on the road versus Nebraska, Spartan football looked to bounce back against the Maryland Terrapins at home. It's a beautiful sunny day, great day for football at Spartan Stadium, and not for Connor, but O'Connor. That's right, Tyler O'Connor in at quarterback for the Spartans. He finds McGarrett Kings in the back of the end zone for the score. Spartans take the early 7-0 lead. Now Connor Cook back in the game, but check out this catch. Another great play by Kings. What a spectacular grab. Goes up for it, kind of being held, grabs it with one hand, pulls it down. That was a great play, but wasted on this fake field goal. The pitch back to Michael Geiger, he gets blown up in the backfield. The offense struggled all day to come up with points, so leave it to the defense. Spartan Dogs and Riley Bulla. He picks it off, dodges a few tackles, takes it to the house. MSU takes the lead 14-7, and they would not give it up. The story, however, revolved around Connor Cook. He left the game with an apparent shoulder injury early on. He came back in the game only to be removed later. And according to Cook and Coach D'Antonio, he'll be fine for Ohio State.
Be all right. Connor will be all right. I don't think since there's any long-term things there.
I'll be fine to go next week. I'll be good.
The Spartans now head to Columbus on Saturday to face off against the Buckeyes for a highly anticipated battle between two top 10 teams. Now with Connor Cook seemingly good to go this week, both Coach D'Antonio and senior Darian Harris agree that the team needs to win the battle up front.
The game sort of becomes dependent on those guys up front winning. And there's all different kind of ways to win up front, whether it's linebackers are involved and things of that nature, and support from the secondary, all these different aspects.
It's big time, both stopping Elliott and Barrett. They do a great job staying behind their blockers, staying tight to the gaps they're supposed to hit. So we got to be incredibly sound in that aspect on defense.
Now, the Spartans had another big game earlier in the week that put them in the national spotlight, but this one was on the basketball court. That's right, Spartan basketball, they're off to a very strong start, defeating number 4 Kansas at the Champions Classic earlier this week. Denzel Valentine recorded a triple-double, leading MSU to a 79-73 victory. The senior guard had 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 12 assists. MSU is now 4-0 and will take on Arkansas Pine Bluff tonight at the Breslin Center. Now, the team locked up one of the top recruiting classes in the nation on National Signing Day, signing 4 of the nation's top players. Nick Ward, Joshua Langford, Cassius Winston, and Miles Bridges all signed with the Spartans on the first day possible, creating what Izzo calls one of his best classes ever.
That would have to be the best class ever. Number 1 in numbers. Usually you don't sign 4. But number 2, and I think in talent level and I think the kind of kids they are.
Now, the team already has very high expectations for this upcoming season, and with a new group of recruits coming in, those expectations will only climb higher. Now, on to women's basketball. The number 23 ranked women's basketball team took on a tough SEC opponent Wednesday night, hosting the Georgia Bulldogs. It did not take long for MSU to get in a groove. They shot out to a 30-9 lead, led by this girl right here. Tori Jankoska drives to the basket, lays it off the glass and in. She had a team-high 20 points on the day. You also have to mention the performance by Morgan Green, though. Despite her size, she tied the team for the team-high 10 rebounds. She led the team in assists, chalking up 7 of them, which is right here to Jankoska, and she also had 11 career-high points of her own. Georgia made it a little closer, though, before halftime. MSU continued the dominance in the second half, winning this one 66-45.
You're not going to blow people out by 40 and 50 points. So you knew they were going to come back, and I liked the fact that we were able to be resilient in that second half, and we came out stronger than they did.
Now traveling down the road to Jennison Fieldhouse, it's the volleyball team. They look to snap a 7-game losing streak against Northwestern. Now both teams started strong set. Eventually MSU won 28-26. Northwestern responded and took control in set 2, leading by 9 at one point. MSU would go on to win set 3 and dominate in set 4, taking the match 3-1. Now the Spartans will travel to New Brunswick this weekend to take on Rutgers. Now the university received another generous alumni donation this month. William Deary has given $1 million to the athletic department. Now this marks the 20th donation of at least $1 million to the school since July of 2011. The money will help fund upgrades in Spartan Stadium, plus major renovations in the Breslin Center. Now in the Breslin Center, speaking of that, the MSU Board of Trustees approved funds that will lead to a new Hall of History and the Draymond Green Strength and Conditioning Center. Now the Hall of History will honor famous players and teams that won the National College Championship. Their Strength and Conditioning Center will also be built below that and will include a locker room for MSU alum in the professional leagues. In addition, structural changes will improve plumbing, security, and concessions. The $50 million project will be funded by donations and university athletics.
Breslin is an iconic building for the university. We do 140 events per year. beginning with convocation, doing fairs, doing all kinds of events. So I think that is relatively important.
That's all I have for sports this week. I'm Brett Cast.
So Brett, how about that big game this weekend?
Yeah, I know. I'm heading down to Columbus, thankfully, so we'll see how that one goes.
Yes, should definitely be interesting.
Thanks, Brett. MSU football fans received an Olympic-style show when more than 600 performers took the field for the halftime show. The unique halftime performance featured the Spartan Marching Band, colorful smoke, stunts, and a cast of performers covering the whole field. One of the designers and choreographer of the show, Jennifer Winma, said she wanted to depict different groups coming together and compromising.
It's going to have the spectacle of what you can expect of a halftime show with the marching band to be, but also has a story that it weaves, and then the story has an underlying philosophy of keeping balance and resolving conflict.
Ma is known for helping design the opening ceremonies of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And that's all we have tonight. Thank you for joining us.
We now leave you with the sounds of state singers and university chorale performing Mozart in Salzburg.